And welcome to the second Kinglands Knit Along meeting, Zoom meeting. It's going to be really exciting. My name is Heather Shostrom. I work for Ancient Arts Yarns. I'm filling in for Caroline. Caroline just had a procedure, so she's not feeling up to snuff. She is really sad that she can't join us all. She is knitting along on her sweater. She's at the same spot as Cheryl. And yeah, we are really lucky tonight. Just some basic reminders. I'm going to tell you and remind you again at the end that the last date for this Zoom call is December 15th. Same time, we will post the link again on our website, and you guys will get an email, I believe, as well. A gentle reminder to post your progress. There's $250 gift certificate on the line. You guys can, that's a sweater's worth of yummy goodness at Ancient Arts. So you want to make sure that you do that. The hashtag is on Instagram, hashtag Kings Lynn Gansey KAL. And the KAL is capital, but we'll pick it up if you don't get it quite right. You can also post on one of our existing, on our Facebook group. And so hopefully you guys get a chance to do that, or you can post on our Ravelry thread. So there's 3 places that you can post your progress and your pictures. I've seen one post and it was fabulous. I would love to see everyone else's. I have the good fortune of sending out your little boxes of goodness, and I always wonder what they're going to look like in the end. So anytime you share what you guys have created, it brings us joy. Whether you hashtag us or share it or email it to Wendy, it kind of brightens our days. Sometimes we put together these boxes and send them out into the world, and as we send them out, go, man, this is gonna be so good. I wonder what they're making. Sometimes we'll put little notes on, but always share with us if you feel inclined to. We would love to see it. Today we're going to have a giveaway. It'll be a $50 gift card for Ancient Arts. At some point, I'll remind Dan, and maybe Dan, you can do a little draw, but we'll do it in a little bit. Tonight, I have the good pleasure of introducing Cheryl Toy. Cheryl was the person that answered the call for the design submissions when we posted those out into the world. She took the ball and ran with it and created some beautiful pieces of work for us. It's not only the Kings Lynn, she has, I think it's 3 other sweaters, isn't it, Cheryl?
It is 4 total.
Yeah, and they're all pieces of work. When we got the samples in, the excitement when we were able to receive those precious treasures was beyond words. We were so excited when they came in. It was like, oh my God. And we'd run through the store, and Dan would look at us like we're crazy. And anyway, Cheryl did a fantastic job with these, and we know we have one more piece coming from you at some point.
We talked about our archipelago, but I don't think we talked about it a whole lot.
On the date, yes. So we're going to work on that. Yeah. So we have yarn in Cheryl's hands. We've approved a design, and we're going to work with her in the year to come to get another sweater from her, because what we already have is just beyond words. The King's Lynn is an example of it. And yeah. So tonight, actually, what's really nice is that we're going to have Cheryl talk to us a bit about things, answer some questions. I am going to just take a quick moment to introduce. So myself, I work with Ancient Arts. We have Dan, who is always here manning the behind the scenes for these Zoom calls. And then we also have Jessie McKittrick, who is our design coordinator. And so she works with the designers, communicates back and forth with them and the tech editors. And then the rest of us kind of support Jessie and the designers to get these beautiful collections to come to life. And so that's our Ancient Arts team. And now Now we'll start talking about the North Sea collection. So it was really important to us to kind of honor the yarn, the Herley yarn, which is our Norwegian wool. And so when we started coming up with the mood boards and the inspiration, it was really important for us to kind of have a bit of a throw to those classic looks and those classic images. And so, yeah, like there's Carolyn has here in the notes like 1,000-year history of knitting, and a knitting style that's very iconic, I guess you could say. So I'm gonna get Cheryl to kind of tell us about like your background and some of your body of work, and then even like where we can find you and your other patterns.
Sure. So I started out as a set designer in motion pictures and theater. This was a long time ago while the earth was cooling. And just kind of fell into, I mean, I've always knitted ever since I was a tiny child, and just thought, I don't remember when the magic moment was that made me say, this is what I really, really want to do. But it did come, and it's a humble job. It's not a big, you don't make a lot of money, and you don't, people say, what do you do for a living? You kind of say, well, I tell you, but you wouldn't believe me anyway, so never mind. So yeah, so it's a great job. It's quite solitary most of the time. But then there are things like this that, offer an opportunity to talk to other knitters. And, down in the South where I live, there aren't a lot of knitters. So I don't have a whole lot of opportunity to talk to people who like to knit woolly things like I do. So, so this is really nice for me. Um, I like to knit garments, but I also do a lot of accessories, just because I like especially right now after those 4 big pieces for you guys. Oh my gosh, I was like, I need some palette cleansing, bite-sized things to do now for a little while. And then of course Christmas comes and you don't really have a choice. You just
Yep.
keep knitting and hoping for the best. So yeah, I think I draw a lot on historical references for design. Just having been, working in set design, which is architecturally inspired most of the time, but also film history, where you see a lot of great, historical, period knits in the 1930s and 40s and so on in film history. And so I suppose I'm guided by that too. Yeah.
Nice. Jesse, do you want to speak a little bit? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you want to speak a little bit about the creation of the mood board and just like that initial piece of the puzzle, like that we sent out this call for designers and stuff?
Sure. We looked at some of the colors that we want to have. So I had that in mind while going through images, but the main thing I wanted was to evoke a mood of landscape and connect with both the Norwegian landscape and particularly the ocean. So we looked at the North Sea and different areas it touched. So not necessarily just in Norway, thinking that, well, there's all these other places that have that connection because they're on the same sea. So I wanted to make sure there were examples from nature, but also from architecture or the prow of a ship, for instance. We had a number of different images like that using art, clothing, landscape, just to try and get a sense of movement and texture, because we really wanted that. Tried to make sure there was a good balance of color to match the colors you want. The thing with creating a mood board is you don't want to make it so that it would be too literal, or you get a lot of designs submitted that look pretty much like knockoffs of the mood board, if that makes sense. We're quite lucky to have hit the right mark with this one. I found a lot of designers sent some wonderful, excellent submissions. Cheryl's in particular she had some great submissions for sure, and they really spoke to that sense of texture that we wanted, and the color work designers that sent in color work, it really hit what we wanted there too. So it was quite exciting to then sit down and have our meeting where we pick things out. It's always a difficult decision, but there were a few that were just, okay, we need this, and this was one of them right here.
Yeah. Jesse, do you want to tell them how many pieces you really wanted in the collection?
Oh, well, I said, okay, for sanity, we need to make sure that we keep this small enough to keep it on schedule. So 7 to 9 maximum. Yes.
And how many did we land on?
We wound up with, was it 14?
Yep. 14 or 15, yeah.
And
Excellent self-control. Excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we had a couple of other calls like for our Lasco Fine and our Lasco DK collection. And in this case, we actually had to really fight for a few pieces to be included. Not fight, but it was like we were trying to keep it manageable as well as try and keep it like we wanted these designs too. So yeah, there was 4 of us that sat at the table that day, and it was hard, wasn't it, Jesse?
Oh, definitely. One of the things is you want not just all the pieces you like, but the ones that work well together and balance out in the collection. We can't look at it later and say, oh, hey, those are all cardigans. We forgot to include pullovers. We can't have it be, all shawls and no hats. I mean, some people are hat knitters. It's good to have lots of shawls, but you need the hats, you need the sweaters. So making sure we have enough of any given category, not have it just be all cables unless that was the goal of the collection, which in this case it wasn't. We wanted to make sure we had some of this, some of that. So having just enough color work, but not too much, different types of techniques, different levels of difficulty. You don't want it to be to the point where it's all at the, way too challenging. You don't want it where it's all too easy. You want to have a nice mix so that a variety of knitters can find something that speaks to them.
Yeah. Cheryl, what made you like submit to this call?
It was just a really, really inspiring mood board.
Oh, that's so
I
good to
think it
hear.
was it's the first time I ever submitted to you guys.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think the sea unites the whole world,
Right.
Like, I mean, especially when you get into those cold waters, it's like, if you look at knitting, the motifs and movements in visual movements in knitting from Scandinavia to the northern British Isles, they're not that different. They must have been running back and forth across that sea a lot to get that exchange of ideas going. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the mood board and I thought, you know what, this is all the things that I want to do. And then of course there was the yarn.
Yeah. Oh, good. Did you like knitting with it?
I did. I loved it. I loved
Okay.
it. But my sweater, I got Lesco
Yes.
time because I spent all my whole summer, and this was the hottest summer I can ever remember. It was like eye-boilingly hot. It was so hot. Here I am, like sticking to my yarn, knitting my pure wool, 4 pure wool sweaters. But I enjoyed every minute of it. It was absolutely beautiful.
That's
But I
so
was
good.
really excited to get the Lesco going, and I was loving that too. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Caroline did a very good job designing those yarns.
The colorways are amazing. It was so hard to decide. I felt I felt a little bit like I went into Baskin and Robbins and ordered a vanilla ice cream cone when I got blue.
Oh, no, no.
But
No,
there's
no.
just so many gorgeous shades. It was impossible to choose.
Yeah. 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 Did everyone else on the call have a hard time picking the colors? No, no. You knew what you wanted.
I'm knitting
Nice.
mine for my oldest, who had it down to about 3 or 4 colors. So eventually we narrowed it down just right. But
Yeah.
Yeah. The color that you were wearing in the pattern just jumped at me.
Oh, good.
I'm really a green person, but I had to have that one. So
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
I didn't have any trouble deciding on that. I
Perfect.
might come back to one of the greens because those are gorgeous too, but
Yeah, there are a couple good ones, that's for sure. For sure. So Cheryl, do you want to tell us about the approach, like when you decided like what your inspiration was for the Gansey, and then like how you got it started? Like, do you start with an idea and then build? Do you start with some stitch patterns, or like how do you
Well,
approach your design?
I felt like that mood board really, and it's different every time, you know, it really is. I wish I could say, oh, you know, I'm just inspired by color and I always start there, but that's not true. I looked at the mood board and I thought, you know what, there's enough history in there, you know, where there was a nod all the time to historical motifs and to, you know, not just old stuff, but present stuff too. But I thought, yeah, how can you do a collection about the North Sea without a Gansey? I mean, it's just such an iconic sweater, especially for that theme. So I really, you know, I started thinking Gansey right away. And I think the Gansey was the first submission that actually got me rolling. When I saw the mood board. And the biggest problem with the Gansey, of course, is editing, you know, because it's really just a canvas for any kind of stitch pattern you want to use. So, you know, the problem was, you know, I normally I'll go through a bunch of different resources that I have, books and things I've drawn and, you know, things I've collected through the years and just kind of lay them out. And I mean, I had a whole like dining room tables worth of motifs that I wanted to use. And so it was just really, really hard to narrow it down. But I've always been intrigued by the way the Gansey form lends itself to a mixture of texture and cable. And so I think it's important to look at them in those two piles. But done right, I feel like they seamlessly interact with one another. You know, the sort of traditional texturized stitches kind of lend themselves almost a cable is almost to move forward from that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was really fun to try and, you know, and it took a long time. It was like, yeah, well, I really love that one. It has to be that one. No, I really love that one. You know, and so it was like a game of shells, you know, and I just kept, and I, you know, I looked online for a lot of resources too. I went to, there were a lot of historical references for Ganseys and how they're knitted. And, you know, of course, the method is very, it's very specific. It's very traditional. It's been done the same way, you know, for many, many years. And I just love working that way. I really did. I really did love working that way. And I love the saddle shoulder as a form anyway. And it just worked out so perfectly for it. And I like that waffle thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not just as a food group.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of how that got started. And then also, you know, it's always interesting to work on something that where the function really dictates the form of it, you know. And I think about people fishing in those cold waters and that cold climate, you know, and how they really needed to keep their core warm. And so that's why all those cables are over the most, you know, the core areas of the body. And then the stockinette stitches, the plain stitches, are placed where they can be reknitted because they're going to become worn. So I love that about the method, you know, and about where the textured stitches were placed. So I had a ball with it. I had a great time.
Yeah. I really like, and I don't know if everyone else feels the same way. I like that it has some really good throws to traditional Gansey, but then like some of the, like the middle center panel is a little bit more of that modern twist, or those more newer versions of like the twisted stitch kind of thing. And
I felt
really
like that was really Canadian too. I really wanted
yeah.
it just reminded me of the North Star, you know, so I really want to get a little Canadian something.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Cheryl, you used to live up here, didn't you?
I'm Canadian, yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually went to the U of A. I went to the University of Alberta and did my Bachelor of Fine Arts there. You too, Jesse? Oh, awesome. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. And, you know, I mean, it was cold, but I lived, you know. I'm paying for it now.
Right. But now you live someplace warmer, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So next up then, Cheryl, is just some tips. Oh, I think we might have lost her for a second. Oh, there you are.
I keep freezing, so
yeah,
I keep trying to refresh it. Tips.
Yeah, some tips and tricks. So like the one hole buttonhole, we have combating the cable flare, working perpendicular joins. We just had a few things that Caroline had sent us a list of things to kind of cover, and then we'll open it up and see if anyone has any questions specific to some of the techniques that we've included in here.
Sure. I really like the one row buttonhole, especially for a crowded space like the one we have at the side of the neck. You
Yeah.
really don't have a lot of room to maneuver in there, and the buttonholes have to be placed in kind of a specific, really specific spot. So the one hole buttonhole, I love it because it's really stable buttonhole. You don't get a lot of stretch out of it. You're not, little holes don't open up. If, follow the instructions, you're not going to get those funny little holes. So that's one of my favorite ways to make a buttonhole.
Great. And then Caroline has listed here, combating the cable flare.
Yeah. I guess everyone noticed, especially in like right where I am. I'm just working the row now where it's a right side row, the first right side row where you increase. So I'm building up my braid, my traditional braid cables by adding 2 stitches to each one of them. And I'm always aware of that, because especially in an area where you're going to be going later to pick up stitches to make a neck band, or, you really want to make sure you have you're working into a really stable edge when you start picking up stitches, but also that it's not going to be so large that you're going to get this fluffy edge when you pick up stitches going around. So I'm always really careful about making sure that I'm not over, because you'll know just by looking at the gauge. If you look at the gauge of cabled fabric versus a gauge of, say, stockinette or some other simple flat fabric, there's often a huge difference in your stitch gauge, and that's going to be felt nowhere more radically than at an opening. So it's important to make sure we don't have too many stitches in there.
And then what about working that perpendicular join?
Has anybody done that yet? Anybody there yet? It's fun. I really like it. Has anybody done it yet?
I feel like Linda was maybe like getting ready to do that. Or maybe was it Penny Starrin? You've got your front and back done? I think she's typing. We're just going to see what she says. Penny, it's okay if you want to unmute and then just say it. Oh, she's trying. Sorry.
Little blue box in the corner.
It's all good.
I like it because it reduces a lot of bulk under the arm. When you're using a drop shoulder or a modified drop shoulder, a lot of times you can get extra bulk, just by the nature of how your armhole has worked, to get a bunch of bulk there. So I like that nice, neat, clean little join there where you've actually got a line of stitches like this that are your body stitches at the underarm. And then once you've completed your join, your sleeve stitches come straight out at a perpendicular angle from it. So it looks pretty slick too, but mostly I like it because it reduces a lot of bulk under the arm.
I unmuted.
Yay!
I figured it out. You're talking about the underarm join?
Yeah.
Okay, I get very nervous with the backwards loop cast on, because in the past, I sometimes wind up with a big gap when I get to the end. And so when I did it this time, I did it so tightly. I mean, as tightly as I could, so tight that I was afraid I wouldn't even be able to knit into the stitches, and it worked out perfectly. There were no gaps, and yeah, I'm about 1.5 inches into the stockinette area.
Oh, great!
Wow,
I've been doing a lot of knitting.
I love it.
Winning this, Penny.
What's that?
I think you're winning.
I think so too.
Well, I think my other responsibilities and just knit.
That's good. And then, so Caroline also wanted to talk about maybe the setup for the sleeve, where we decrease for the selvage stitches and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Does everybody get that? Why it's like that? Just because it's a thing, I hate mingy salvages, because again, I have a thing about picking up stitches, and I'm always afraid that if I don't have enough, I guess as a sewer, I could say I'm afraid of not having enough seam allowance there, so that, again, like, how it is when you're working like your saddles, your 2 sleeve saddles. If you if you weren't slipping the first stitch of every row, you know, you get that fluffy, weird kind of loose column along the side.
Yep.
We don't want to be picking up from there. We really want to be picking up from a column of stitches, 2 or 3 columns into that, so that it really has a lot of stability to it. And that's great, but what it leads us to is having 2 extra stitches, or actually in this case, I think it's 4 extra stitches in the saddle than we need to get to put into the sleeve. You see, so you know, you've got 18 stitches in your saddle, and then by the time you get around to working that into your sleeve, you only need 16 stitches. So yeah, to get rid of those 2 extra salvage stitches, you'll see in the instructions there's a knit 2 on either side. So if anybody's confused about why there's a decrease in there, that's it. That's your guy.
Yeah, hadn't ever done that before. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of stitches that were like, or an extra like row or 2 that we're kind of like leaving behind. But Caroline also suggested that it adds structure to the garment as well. So
True. And you know, structure, especially when you're dealing with fabric that like cabled fabric or textured fabric that can get very heavy. Those every little place where you can get a little extra stability is good. I've just recently, like in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so, I've always been really into the math and the process of seamless knitting, and that's always I've really been keen on that for a long time. But I designed a great big heavy cabled cardigan for Hudson and West a couple of years ago. And I was just mashing my head up against how I was going to get it to, I was going to get the raglan to behave the way I wanted it to at the top of the sleeve, but also in the body of the sweater. And the editor there, she said, why don't you do this in pieces? And I was just like, what? And so she's like, it's not going to be that bad. You should try it. And boy, what an eye opener that was. Just to be able on a heavily, I did that with North Coast. See, with the North Coast cardigan that I did for you guys.
Yep.
It just made a big difference. Being able to count on those seamed areas to hold to keep those cables true, if you will, you know, to keep them firm and stable. It's great. Anywhere you can add a little extra stability into something, in my view, the better.
Yeah. And you know, what's funny is like we get these new pieces in and we're all excited and they look beautiful. And then the next thing we do is we look on the inside because it really does give you a good indication of like what the piece is going to be like to knit, and then what it's going to be like as a finishing product for other people, as well as like yourself, you know, like the designer's done this and it looks like this. And then you start to explore the inside of the piece as much as you look at the outside. And yeah, like your finishings on, like, we're really lucky we have, I don't know, any of the sweaters that we had, the finishing was so high quality. Some of it we thought was like, we were ready to challenge you all on like whether it was machine knit or something, because it was, some of this stuff is like, all of the pieces that came in were such high quality in the finishing and in like the knitting itself, that it was just.
And I'm really glad, I don't know which of you guys it was, I think it might have been Caroline, but she decided to take that center seam out of the back of the North Coast and graft it. I'm so glad she did that. That was a really great idea. I was sorry that but that was a real game changer. Now it's a beautiful smooth, like,
Yeah.
so you know, you help each other too, you know, as knitters.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, when we get the design submissions in, then Jesse and the tech editors go through these pieces and start, you know, reading through them as if we were going to knit them. And sometimes what happens is that when we read through them, we kind of like talk to the designers and say, you know, well, like, this is a really beautiful thing, or like, could we change this because maybe it would make this work better, or it'll be more knitter friendly, because we deal with a lot of the knitters now, especially now that we have a storefront. We do get a lot of questions on how do you do this, or what do you finish? And probably between Jesse, Carolyn, and Emma and I, we've probably got over 100 years of knitting. So we kind of all go through it and talk about the process. And then when you throw in the years of experience that the tech editors have, so then we kind of work with the designers like Cheryl and say, would it be, could it be, is it possible? And, you know, like we don't ever want to go in and like infringe on the designer's like vision or, you know, end product goal or any of that. But if there's a way that we can make it better for the knitter afterwards, who's purchasing the pattern, then we try to do that. Sometimes we're really lucky, and in Cheryl's case, she was very gracious to say, oh, that makes way more sense. Other times we've had the discussions and the designers have said, no, actually, I'd really like it to stay this way. It's probably just a personal preference in how they finish the product. So we find that balance, but in the end, what we try to do is come up with a pattern for you guys so that you can recreate these beautiful pieces yourself.
I think that collaborative element, I find I get that a lot more working with yarn companies than I do publishing in magazines.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems like there's a certain amount of, well, you're on a lot of common ground there. You know, it's like, it's your yarn. You don't, nobody knows this yarn as well as you do, you know, and you know how it's going to behave. So I enjoy that collaboration. You don't really get that with a magazine, but you do get it with a yarn company.
Yeah, I think the preference with us is always to work with each other as opposed to, and like I said, the idea is that ebb and flow through those experiences is just so fantastic.
Might learn something too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Learn something new every day, right? Jessie, do you also find that like with?
Oh yeah, I love working with all the designers, and yeah, it's amazing all the different different techniques that maybe I haven't come across before, or even ones I have but maybe haven't explored from that angle. It's always great. There's always new things to learn from everyone, whether it's from the tech editors, the designers, the knitters who get back in touch with us.
You're so calm too, Jessie. I really appreciated that. I'm like, oh my gosh, just like.
Well, I have to be calm to make sure that that you guys aren't panicking, right? Yeah, no, I try to do my best to make sure that that all the designers are happy to work with us. I know it's I design as well. I've done a lot of work with third-party publishers, and sometimes very excellent experiences, sometimes very stressful because there can be really tight deadlines. So we try to hit a more reasonable expectation for deadlines and a few things like that. So
Nice. So Dan, I'm going to get you to find a winner for us for our $50 gift certificate. And then one last thing that I'll ask Cheryl to talk about, and then we'll open it up to questions just regarding specific techniques and stuff in the knitting. Caroline's asking about some instructions about how to lengthen or shorten the sleeves or the body.
Mm-hmm. And you can lengthen. Personally, I would lengthen them within the stockinette portion. But if you felt like you needed to lengthen them in the portion that's cable, I don't really think you can go wrong. I mean, I feel like use your head. Obviously, you don't want to end. You want to be aware of cable flare for sure. So however much more length you want to add in the cabled section, you're always going to want to tighten up those cables in your last row as they're written. But you could even make that if you wanted to take it on, you can make that cabled section as long as you wanted to. You could make the whole sweater cabled if you wanted to. You just have to, be a little careful. But yeah, if it were me and I was lengthening the sleeve, I would do it in the smooth portion, just because it's a certain proportional thing that where the pattern part stops and the stockinette part starts. And you can vary that too if you feel like it's not figure flattering for you.
Right.
Everybody wants a line right there, or wherever. So
yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Cheryl? We can kind of open up if you want to unmute and ask a question. We can kind of take them one at a time if you like. Everyone's sitting there going, no questions?
I want to be right there. Look at all the yarn.
where Dan is.
It's in paradise.
Yeah, that's the storefront.
That's
A
beautiful.
lot of yarn going on here, but there's also some really lovely sweaters there. In fact, I see one that probably everyone recognizes. So,
Like,
Wendy has a
Cheryl,
question. Sorry, Wendy has something she wanted to say.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to this portion yet, but I was reading for doing the patterning when it's still after you've joined in the round. And it says to end at either row 16 or 30 of section A. And yet there's a measurement. I don't remember what the measurement was. I think for the size I'm making, 4.5 inches. And is it better to go to the shorter or to the longer to hit that 16 or 30? Because that will make those amount of rows would make quite a couple, almost 2 inches difference in that length. Am I making sense?
you are totally making sense. I think the
Okay,
reason I did that was so that you weren't ending your cable at an awkward point in the pattern. You know, I kind of picked 2 places where you know, it would make the most sense to stop working the pattern. But you know, if you feel like you can push it by a couple of rows or take it back by a couple of rows, I don't think that would be a problem. It's just a matter of just so that that pattern doesn't end awkwardly for you, you know, or end in a way that isn't flattering to you when you wear the sweater.
Anyone else have a question? Everyone's sitting there going, Must mean the instructions are really good. Yay! Jesse, did you have any tips or tricks that you had come across?
I don't think quite as such, but I find I know a lot of people absolutely swear by doing cables without needles now and again, but I just can't. So even those little twisted ones that are written so that you can do them without, I'm just going ahead and using a needle because it's what works for me. So I guess my tip is do what works for you, as long as it's going to come up with how you like it in the end.
I did the same as you, Jesse, and on those just the 2 stitch ones, it was easier just on the one side, like when you had to purl from behind. I found it easier just to move that one out of the way. I appreciate that Cheryl put it in the instructions so that you didn't have to do that, because a lot of people don't like to use cable needles. The stitch markers were definitely.
I don't understand people who do like 3 and 4 stitch cables without a cable needle. I can't do that.
No.
It's like, no, I want my
Yeah.
must have. Cool.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
cable needles if I have to, as long as I'm not dropping things places.
Yeah, yeah. Dan, do you have a winner for us?
I do. Yes. This week's winner of a $50 gift card is Sandra David. Sandra, I'm going to put the same information in the chat, but to claim your prize, you will need to email Wendy at sales@ancientartsfiber.com. So congratulations.
Yay.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled. Thank you.
Excellent. That's what we're going for.
So was this the first time for some people using our yarn or using one of our patterns or kits? No. Wendy, it was your first time?
first time with this particular yarn.
Okay.
What color did you get, Wendy?
The denim 4.
Me too. We're gonna have a little team. We're gonna have a cheering section. Denim 4. Go denim 4.
Nice.
I
Very
got introduced to your yarns through your cat colors for your socks.
right.
My local yarn shop carried that. And I discovered that, I mean, that's how I learned about you. And then I got to watch Caroline a couple of times at the Stitches stuff. So
Right.
I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah. She loves doing these things. She was so disappointed to not be able to join us all. So yeah, it's heartbreaking for her. She really, I'm sure Dan would concur that it breaks her heart when she's not able to come and do these things and sit with you guys. And I don't know, a wealth of knowledge that Caroline can bestow on us is, I mean, it's never ending. I've worked with the company for 6 years, and I think every day I go in and learn something new. So that's pretty cool. Getting to sit in on these sessions. It's been really nice to have Cheryl join us because she has her perspective and her take on it as well. So it's really fun to hear that. I'm just looking at the time. Do you guys want to hold up and show us where you're at? Let's see your projects. Oh, Sandra's saying no.
I got diverted with
Look
some.
at Wendy. Sorry, Sandra.
No, that's all right. I got diverted with some charity knitting, so I'm not very far along.
Nice. And
Oh,
Wendy, what color did you do yours in?
Denim 4.
Right. And you've gotten already to the part where you're knitting in the round?
No, I'm knitting I'm knitting the front part. I've
Oh,
got
it looks,
that's the back.
yeah, it looks
And this is the-
spectacular.
I love the shade and whatnot that's created by the texture of all the patterning in the yoke parts.
Yeah, yeah. Penny, and do you want to show everyone? Because you posted online.
Yes, as well as I can.
Oh, yeah. And did you do cypress? Is that cypress or woodland?
I'm a green person. Yes, cypress.
Yeah, that's stunning.
Thank you. I'm really loving it. I have a hard time putting it down.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And
Yes.
Melissa? Sorry, Penny.
I'm sorry.
And so you're just about done then. You're going to be done by the end of the week?
Oh, I don't think so. We still have some sleeves to go.
Right, right. Melissa, did you want to?
Yeah, I've only just barely started because I've been very busy, but I have this much done.
Oh,
And
yeah, it
it's
looks like,
French Bordeaux.
yeah, yeah.
I
Nice.
love
That's also what I'm knitting. Is the
Yeah,
French
it's very
Bordeaux.
good. It's like a cherry burgundy red.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really loving how it's working up in this pattern.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
And
need
have
more
you
time
worked?
to knit.
Yeah, you'll get it. Hopefully you get some time over the holidays.
Yeah.
Had you worked with our yarn before?
Not the specific one, but I've worked
Okay.
with lots of the Lasco fine and the nettle ones. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So this one's new to me.
Oh, good. That's good. I love it when you get to try something new.
How
Yeah.
are you? Where are you, Melissa?
I'm in Calgary, Alberta. Very close. I picked this up in person.
Yay.
Sorry?
You have snow yet?
No, it all melted. We got some before Halloween and now it's gone.
Amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
And Linda, are you able to let us know where you're at on things? Oh, I think you have to unmute, Linda.
Hi, I don't have mine with me. We're in Kamloops for a hockey tournament for my daughter. So that's why my background's being all really crazy. But I've been working on it and I'm doing French Bordeaux for my husband. And I love the color and I love the feeling of the yarn on my fingers. So it feels like almost like I'm using hand lotion as I keep knitting with it, which is really odd. But anyways, I love it. I love the color and I love the pattern. So I'm trying to do multiple patterns at the same time. But anyways, yes, perfect. I love it. Anyways, thank you very much for the whole designs and everything.
Thanks for
But yeah,
knitting.
you can't.
And did I get everyone? I think I got everyone. Yeah, I did get everyone. Cheryl, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm just really thrilled that so many people want to knit it. That makes me
Yeah.
really, it really does. And also just seeing the colors that people chose and You know, it just yeah, it just really really warms my heart to see that people really like it. And it's just such a great yarn for that project too. I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, I'm loving the Lasco now. I get to try. It's a little bit different.
Mhm.
I like it. I love them both.
Yes, yes, I know. Lasco is one of my true loves, and then I've completed one sweater in Harley. I did just a cardigan in a color called Pashmina, and I have another one to cast on at some point. But yeah, I really like the Hurley as well. Caroline has done a fantastic job designing these yarns, working with the mills, coming up with the combinations, the twist, all of that stuff has just been,
It really is.
yeah, amazing, amazing. We did show and tell. We have just a few minutes if there's anything else that anyone has any questions about or comments or this is a quiet little group we have today, which is great. It's lovely. You guys have all participated in their way, and the projects that I've seen have been fantastic, and I can't wait for you guys to post them, because if you post them, you get the chance to win $250, which is essentially another sweater. And we do have a Black Friday sale coming up the week of the 26th to the 31st for those that are in the United States. And it's kind of our Black Friday version. And Dan, did you have anything that you wanted, any housekeeping that we need to remember?
Just a teeny little thing, and it's a small correction, not Black Friday coming up, Boxing Week. We just
Right,
did
that's
Black
right.
Friday.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, yes. No, that's okay. It's what I intended to say, but
Yep,
didn't.
I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's give you guys a quick reminder that our next call will be December 15th. Same time, we will have the link on our website again. I believe Cheryl's going to join us again. So yeah. So it'll be awesome because you guys can continue to ask questions. We can ask her for some more inspo. Caroline, I'm sure will be there this time. And I guess we'll just thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to get to meet and interact with all of you. Cheryl, especially thank you for making some time to join us. It's always so special to kind of hear the inspiration by it and the creative process behind the garments that we get to knit. And yeah, if there's nothing else, then I guess we'll wrap up a little bit early, and we'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank
Wendy.
you very
Bye,
much.
Linda.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank
Cheryl.
you.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
See you soon, guys.
Bye.
Bye.